Hello, my friends. I'm so excited. Happy full moon. Today is a very unique day because not only is it a full moon, but we're coming to the completion of the year as well. So we just had Thanksgiving in the US, and it's an interesting time. A lot of people coming together with your family and kind of this like energy around the feeling of whatever you've been working on this year, hopefully feeling of completion around that, and especially a lot of feeling of gratitude, hopefully. And I want to talk a little bit about gratitude for a moment, the power that it has, and also the emotional tone scale, which we talk a lot about at the Flow State Institute. But the emotional tone scale is a range of emotions that we can feel in our lives. And depending on what comes up for us, it's either at the high end, which is like joy and bliss and flow, or could be in the middle somewhere, or we're just kind of like neutral, or down at the bottom where we're feeling like anger, shame, all these other things. So I like to talk about this because especially when you're around family, like at this time of year in the holiday time, anytime, my family especially, I always recognize that, certain little things can happen in these family gatherings where somebody gets triggered and then, it becomes from a joyous experience down to the bottom of that. So it's an interesting thing that actually happened on Thanksgiving because my sister, one of my little sister, she has a baby, and so she's like she has to be home by 6 so the baby can be in bed on time, and she is very strict on that. And I felt so bad because my other sister, on Thanksgiving, she made this amazing like 7-course meal, and she wanted to do it like we were out at a restaurant where like each course was like delivered in like this fancy way. And I was impressed. I helped her make a lot of it, and I was impressed. I mean, it's like so beautiful and everything, but my sister, like, it took too long, and so my little sister had to leave before like the main course came out, and the other one that was cooking ended up getting so upset. And she had been drinking, I have to be honest, like she drinks, so I think that contributed, but it just ruined the like ending of the beautiful evening. And I was thinking about how important it is, if we can, to create ways where consciousness around our life, around our relationships, around the events, around our family, whatever is going on, right? We want to try to create a beautiful experience, because what happens is, now, most people probably understand this, but it kind of leaves an imprint. And it's a little bit like a trauma when something's great and then it ends bad. Like, and because it's like in the psychology, kind of the way that human minds work is we kind of tend to remember the ending. Or we remember like how we felt at the ending of something, right? So if we can leave something in a really good ending, it can leave such a better impression in the subconscious and the mind, so that you look back on that memory and be like, oh, that was so beautiful, and not like, oh my God, let's never do that again. Like it was, So I was really thinking about this. I mean, I thought I was proud of my family, to be honest, because throughout our life, we actually, I told you, I think for most people who know me, know my mother lost her mind when I was 7. So after that, we all didn't live together. So we didn't really ever have like a lot of holidays together that much. And so I was just proud of everybody for getting together for the holiday. I was like, that to me was like a big breakthrough and a huge, movement in the right direction. But it would have been nice if it would ended like with a joy and just everyone hugging and a loving, and I feel like it's up to us as conscious beings to kind of be that peacekeeper in the experience as well. And I don't know, some people, I think, it's a totally different experience. Like I went to my sister's husband's family for a holiday, for part of the holiday dinner, and a different day. And the ending was joy. The whole thing was joy. There was like 20 kids. Like it was just like, they weren't doing it this fancy way. So it was like family dining style. Everyone just get what you want. It was on the table. Like there was nobody getting served. And it made it easier because people could come and go at their own timing and nobody was, affected. So I don't know. It was an interesting thing because I've been in lots of family situations where it was just a lot of joy and it ended in joy. And I just know that because my family had so much trauma in our family, like it's kind of predictable that something crazy will usually happen in our family. And it always makes me think if our family's like that, there's probably other people like that. And I feel for everybody who goes through that stuff because I personally feel I'm so grateful for the yoga path because of the meditation and the healing work that I've done, I'm not triggered by it. But what it does is it helps me, I have a lens of awareness. So then when I'm like experiencing this and I'm witnessing and I can see the underlying reason why my sister did that, like she got so mad and it's based from her abandonment wounds, right? So you start to understand, you can see people in a different way. And what I try to do is help if I can, so I sat with her after the one sister left and I just tried to help her understand why she needed to leave because she hasn't slept for like 18 months because this baby does not sleep very well. So anyway, she's very strict on the sleeping thing. So that's why she had to leave. So it was like an interesting thing because so often the reason that there's any conflict in any regard, it's usually one of two things. It's the ego. The ego is like, I wanted it this one way. And then the other part is the expectation of what it should have been, right? And I wrote about this in the Journey to Joyful book. So post a comment if you guys have read my book Journey to Joyful. And by the way, I'm getting ready to release a new version of that, which I'm very excited. And it'll also have an audiobook version. I've been working on that for a while. Let's see. Emily had a question. Good morning. Before we jump on the topic, can you remind me if the live stream is 8 weeks or 12? Okay, that's a good question. Okay, it's 12 weeks. And then also, will we have it on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve? They're both on Sundays. Good question. I was thinking about that too. Just happened to be the very interesting thing that they're both on a Sunday this year. Good question, Emily. I'll just answer that really quick. It's 12 weeks. And it's an interesting thing. I personally like doing these, so I don't have any issue with it. And I know there are people in our community that are probably not Christian, so maybe they don't celebrate, but I'm open. So if you guys have any input, please feel free to post a comment if you're like, yeah, I'd like to do it on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, or because it's gonna be in the morning anyway. Or if you're like, you know what, let's skip it. I might still do it either way. Today's a full moon, so we're going to do a meditation and a little bit of a ceremony today. And I usually do that kind of thing around a holiday. So to me, it's a significant day, like New Year's Eve, for example. We could do it the next day, perhaps, and do it on New Year's Day, but I like to do kind of like a vision board and some journaling around the new year, completion of the year, and then calling in the new energy to your life. So that's probably what we'll do if we do end up doing it on New Year's Eve. Otherwise, we could do it the following day or the following week. Let's see, Jennifer said, I read it. It's so amazing. It helped me heal some of my things. Oh my God, I love that. Thank you for telling me that. I'm good to do it on those days. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for telling me that too. Yeah, Journey to Joyful is an interesting thing because when I wrote that book, actually what happened was I was like, my consciousness was waking me up in the middle of the night to write that book. And it was just like channeling all of these things that I had felt were really helping me, and even to this day, like I just talked about, like the energy of expectations. That's all in the chapter on the monkey mind, and it's under the 3 emotional prison keepers. But the idea of like expectations. Here's an interesting thing. So one of the things I learned since I wrote that book, I wrote that book many years ago, the idea, like some people have a different actual interpretation of the word expectation. So there are 2 kinds of expectation, which I want to address because, and I'm going to make this also adjustment in the new version, but so there's positive expectations and then there's negative expectations. So negative expectations is where you expect something, and if it doesn't happen that way, you feel bad. Now, positive expectations is more like you expect it to go well, and so it does, right? So, like, you kind of want to learn the nuance of this. It's critical because you want to have positive expectations. You want to feel like I expected it to work out and it worked out even better than I expected. That's a good feeling. I think the main energy of it is that you don't want to be attached to how it works out. That's the key. So that's why there's the attachment, expectation, and then the third one is what is it? Judgment. So the judgment. So we can talk about that for a second. So even applying it to our Thanksgiving scenario, right? So my sister, she had an attachment to the expectation. She had an attachment to how she wanted it to go. She had the attachment to she wanted everyone to enjoy the full meal and was very much thinking that was going to happen, you know? And so to be non-attached to that would be like to be in the moment. And to be in the moment is to be like, okay, she has to leave. Let me just love her and have compassion for her situation because her situation is that she needs to leave because she has to go to work now and try to put this baby to bed for the next 4 hours. And I tried to help her see that, but it was hard to see it because once you trigger anger or disappointment or any of these like kind of negative emotions, it's hard to see anything, right? That's what happens with triggers. I also talk about that in Journey to Joyful too. So there's a word for this like trigger, and in the Buddhist tradition, they call it a shenpa. So the shenpa is, it's a little bit more than the trigger. It's actually like, it spirals from the trigger into an emotion. So shenpa, you can look at it like for her shenpa in that was abandonment, right? She was feeling abandoned. Everyone was leaving right when dinner was getting served, and it triggered an abandonment wound for her. So that was the shenpa. She's not aware of shenpas right now still. So I've been trying to explain these things for a while, but not everybody gets it right away. But it's like, even just you being in this training, you are an evolved soul, because to actually get these understandings and have this awareness of this lens to go into life with is absolutely like puts you a mile in front of everybody else. Like nobody understands these things, right? So everybody's just interacting from like a very almost like unconscious place most of the time, especially if they drink or like, you know, are doing things like that. So usually if you're in family interactions, or even if it's like a work environment or any kind of thing, you know, like you might be the only one with this level of awareness. Now, when you have this level of awareness, it's kind of a responsibility to keep the peace. That's what I feel. So that's why usually I end up being the one that's like trying to keep the peace. It's because they don't have that level of awareness. So you have to have the compassion as well. So if someone doesn't have like awareness and they act like out of no awareness, then they're going to behave with those patterns, which is like anger and like rage or violence or saying mean things, whatever it is. And so coming from a lens of awareness, that's you guys, or you know, this conscious level of understanding of like just seeing how things play out, you know, then we can come in with, at least we're not going to get wrapped up in it, but like what we could do is, you know, employ some of our techniques that we have and keep the peace. One of the best techniques that we can employ is just like communication. Communication is a healing technique if you know how to do it right? So if you know how to ask the right questions, or at least stay calm yourself so that the other involved is not riled up by the emotional charge that's coming out of you, that's even a technique, right? To be able to remain calm in an environment that's not calm. So this is where meditation really pays off. So if you guys are doing your meditations and you're like learning all these amazing techniques, and then you notice like things happen and you're not as affected anymore, that's when you know it's working. Or like that's when you know you're making progress in your spiritual journey. Not so much like if you can put your leg behind your head, although that's a really cool technique. It feels good, but it's not necessarily an indication of an advanced consciousness. The advanced consciousness is how calm can you remain in the midst of the storm. And I remember I remember when I lived in Florida and I was in a couple of hurricanes actually. Leave a comment if you've ever been in a hurricane. It's quite interesting, to be honest. I enjoy it. It sounds weird, but I enjoy it. And when I learned the first big hurricane that I was ever in, I learned something so powerful because it helped me for the rest of my life. Jennifer says, I live in Louisiana. I've been through a bunch of them. See? Yeah, I lived in Florida. So it's like, it's almost like equivalent to, if you've been in rain, if you live in these places. I was in North Carolina during Florence. Oh wow, Emily, amazing. Yeah, so then those of you who know you've been in the hurricane before, basically what I felt was I was in the middle of a really big hurricane. I'm trying to even think which one it was, but it was a really big one. It was like Katrina or something. And basically the whole house was shaking, all these trees was getting flown all over, like smashing the cars. It was really crazy. But then there was a point where the eye of the storm passed over my house. And it was a very big hurricane. So this eye of the storm lasted at least an hour, which might have been 2 hours. I don't know. So it was so big. So the eye of the storm, so the storm has like wind bands of water. Like that's what a hurricane, like this. And then there's like the center around that is like the calmest place on earth. And it's amazing. So what happens is, like when it's passing over you, there comes a point where that eye of the storm is directly above your home. Not everybody experiences this, but I had experienced it a couple times. So then all of a sudden, silence and no trees smashing into cars and no like anything. And I was like, whoa. And it was a while. So I actually decided I would walk outside. I was a little risk taker. So I walked outside and it was the calmest feeling perhaps I've ever experienced. Something about the way the pressure system is, it pushes all the intensity to the outer edge, and the center is just so calm. So I always think about that when I'm thinking about emotions, because emotions is that like can become this intensity if you allow yourself to get wrapped into it. And I'm sure everybody has had that happen at least once, right? Where it's like maybe something happened and all of a sudden you became wrapped up in the emotion, and then it becomes like almost like you can't control it because it's just like, and then it's a good thing sometimes you just let it run its course. But overall, it's like the best place to be is in the eye of the storm. So like that centered calm. And so through meditation and everything that we do and kriyas and all this, what we're doing is you're training your nervous system and your mind and your emotional body to remain there as often and for as long as you can. So it's like ultimately you want to always be there. So even if it's like a war zone, that the internal regulation of the nervous system is in this calm place. But you also want to train yourself to have awareness of the bands of the storm. So sometimes the bands of the storm are your sister or like people around you, or it could be yourself in that moment. Just having the awareness of self, that in the eye of the storm, you are the center. I mean, in a storm, that you are the eye, that you are that center, and to train your emotional regulation. And that's what I love about all these practices, the yoga, meditation, and breath work, and kriyas, and all of this. It really is teaching the nervous system on a fundamental biological level to be calm amidst chaos. You think about even like breath work, or you could think of kriyas. Kriyas are a good example, but breath work can be like this too. It's like, I don't know if you guys have gotten to the kriya module yet, but anyway, kriyas are crazy because sometimes it's like you're doing all these things, like maybe your arms are moving and you're doing something with your tongue, even breathing like heavily, and it's like repeatedly for a long time. And so it reminds me of those bands of it. It's like you are becoming a storm, but the internal mechanism, that center of your awareness, is calm, centered. And you notice when you start doing kriyas that they actually stir up a very uncalm, uncentered reaction. Like I remember when I first did kriyas and I had to do this one, it was like literally 30 minutes or more. And you're like standing in a squat position, like wide leg, like a goddess stance, wide leg squat, and then your arms are up, and then your tongue is out, and you're doing fire breathing for 30 minutes without stopping. And there's some points throughout that where you literally, your mind is like, I'm going to die. And it goes into like all of this explosive, just like frantic chaos, because it pushes up all of the subconscious programs and fears that are kind of stored in the subconscious mind. And so that's what I love about that kind of thing, is that it pushes it up. And then with a consciousness, with awareness, and with continuous practice, what I found is that it gets less and less and less. And so if you do it one time, you might notice, wow, I had like a chaotic mind during that. But if you did it like for 30 days, that's why a lot of times we encourage you to do 30 or more days of something continuously. By the end of that, you might not even see any thoughts at all. And it might just be like, wow, I'm so proud of myself. Because I know there's one of the Kriyas that I teach in this program where I'm thinking it's called the Miracle of Miracles. Yeah, it's called the Miracle of Miracles. Your arms are out like this, and you're rotating your hands, so it's like this, or you could, there's different ones, but that's one of them. And then you're singing a mantra, so you're chanting, and it's like, it's about 14 minutes or 12 or something. It's not 30 minutes, but it's quite long. And there comes a time when it feels like your arms are going to fall off, and you're just like, oh my God, it's so painful. And it's interesting because I used to do that Kriya every day. And then I remember by the end of like a period of time, I didn't even feel any pain at all anymore. And the thoughts stopped. The thoughts of like, when is it over? And oh my God, I'm going to die. Like all those thoughts stopped coming. And what I noticed was the power of the mind had gotten stronger over that time period. And it actually stays with you. So even if you don't do that Kriya, for example, for 5 years, if you go back to it, generally, you kind of can pick up close to where you left off. You're not starting at zero because the pain is in your mind. And hopefully your mind evolution, consciousness awakening has gotten to a higher place and stayed there, or even grown more from there. So it's an interesting thing. Let's see, Jennifer had a comment. She said, we always did minor cleanup in the eye. I love the calm of the eye. We go for walks too. Yes. So I like the analogy of the eye of the storm. And it's interesting for those of you like Jennifer and Emily who have been in storms like that, because you have a reference point. But for anybody who hasn't been in a hurricane, you can reference it more like, just any kind of thing that comes up. Right? But we want to be the eye of the storm in every interaction that we can. And I believe that's one of the most powerful kind of takeaways of this training. And I hope that everybody experiences that, because that's been one of the greatest blessings of my life. I used to be so emotional, and I used to just get triggered about a lot of stuff all the time. And I was very impatient. So like all of these things that I thought that's just who I am. And then through doing these practices and teaching this, it's not who I am. And I realized, and in the spiritual path of yoga, this concept that this I am is the most powerful words we can use in the English language. But what we put after those two words, I am, it defines us. And we actually, on a deep level, believe that to be true. So if you say, I am lazy, then that's going to make you a lazier person. But if you say, I am inspired, I am empowered, I am, the eye of the storm, whatever the I am affirmations that you hold on to and that you repeat in your life, they tend to become more solidified. So that's why I also put a lot of emphasis on things like affirmations, even if you don't have to sit here and repeat affirmations all day, but I do believe they are very helpful, because it's also another way of programming the mind and the subconsciousness to believe in yourself. So often whatever stage of consciousness that we're at, there's always a little bit more we could do, usually around self-belief, self-worth, like knowing that you're worthy of everything good in the world, like that you are a divine being of God, a pure light extension of source energy coming through this body. And in the knowing of that you are here to achieve your divine life purpose, and you are here to do amazing things and experience a beautiful life, and you deserve everything that your heart desires and even more and beyond that. And that knowing, and it's interesting because so often, especially in the spiritual community, I was talking to a friend of mine about this, is like so often in the spiritual community, and I can talk about why I think this is, but there's like usually some different energy blocks that we have to work through around things like deservingness, worthiness, or financial abundance or receiving in some of this. So actually what I was feeling like doing today, I was thinking about this because I was watching a video about this, and they were talking about like the energy of receiving, the energy of feeling worthy of receiving, or we also call this a divine feminine energy. Well, the feminine energy is the energy of flow. So this school, Flow State Institute, which is the school that we have here, is all about that. So it's not to say that it's only for women, but it's the feminine energy within all of us, men or women. So the idea that as we activate that energy in a bigger way, then we can open up the portal to allow more, receive more. And in the receiving of more, you actually become a vessel to give more. So giving and receiving are two sides of this beautiful reciprocal energetic exchange that we're doing with the universe, right? So it's like if we are somehow blocked off from receiving on whatever level, not like maybe not fully, but like you could be receiving on a bigger level, and for whatever reason you're not, for let's say, that what happens is we have to look at ourselves and say, where am I blocked in my energy? And when I think about chakras, right? So the two chakras that are connected to the receiving and the divine feminine energy is the second chakra and the sixth. So the chakras are actually connected in an interesting way. So the seventh is connected to the first, second and sixth, and then fifth and third. And then the heart, of course, is the center point. So the heart chakra is always important, and it plays into all of our different life experiences. Like your heart has to always be as open as possible, and that amplifies the ability for the other chakras to work, to be in their highest level. So anyway, back to the second and the sixth. So the sixth is the intuition. So this is the energy. The divine feminine energy is based almost entirely on intuition. Leave a comment if you feel that your intuition is very strong. And you can also leave a comment if you feel your intuition could use some work. I'd like to see if you guys have this kind of like awareness of yourself, because I think that intuition is so interesting. I remember my whole life I had like this unique relationship to intuition because I'm very, very third eye, sixth chakra kind of person. Like I always saw visuals, I'm very visual, and I could envision things and I could see it even before it would happen. And I thought my sixth chakra is just so open. And it is in certain ways. But I also realized that sometimes I couldn't trust my intuition because the connection between the third eye and the second chakra was not strong. And it was because my second chakra had a lot of trauma. So I was like, because I thought I have this like clear vision, and then I would trust the wrong people. And I was like, how did I make the wrong decision in that? And then I thought it was so, and then when I would always look back, I would see that there was a message that I had ignored, right? Usually it was a message that you got that you didn't listen to. So there's like, this is that intuitive sense, and it goes with the gut instinct. That's that second chakra. And I like to say with women, it's the womb instinct. Womb instinct is kind of like gut instinct, but it's even deeper. Womb instinct is like you just know and you listen to that. So we want to train ourselves to get better at listening to our instinct and our intuition. Those are the two energies. And then the other part is to feel worthy of receiving. And to feel worthy of receiving is to feel deserving, to feel that you have great value in the world, and that your energy is adding value to the world. Therefore, it's obvious that you should receive. Like this type of feeling. But the other part of it is pleasure, which is funny because I have always been, I like, chocolate and dancing and, laughter. And we want to get into a habit of having more pleasure in life. And I feel like right now on Earth, we're in a very strange place on Earth where it's like you're almost not allowed to be happy or have pleasure on social media, for example, because everybody's like, there's so much suffering and war going on. How can you be happy? Or, and what we have to do is, first of all, cut out anybody else's opinion and really tune into yourself and be like, okay, do I feel happy? Do I have pleasure in my life? Who cares what anybody else thinks? These are fundamental things that we all need. Happiness, pleasure, And so really focusing on that as part of your health goals, I would say, part of the flow state protocol. You have to find ways to be more pleasured, have more pleasure in your daily life. And that's going to help you be a better teacher and be of better service. Because what that does is it brings you to a higher vibration. And that higher vibration will allow you to serve in a bigger way, right? I'm going to pull up this graphic that we pulled up last week. But this graphic, I'm going to do a screen share really quick. This graphic I always like because this is we're putting this in the new Journey to Joyful book, but this is a graphic that depicts the emotional tone scale, right? So let's look here. Now it's not an extensive, there's lots of other emotions that are also could be added to this, but these are kind of like the most common ones. But you look at this. Now, the majority of the world is suffering. And look, you can see why, because suffering is in this category of fear, grief, apathy, guilt, and shame. So we'll look at 100 and below is really suffering. Desire is on the cusp. It's interesting though, because anger and pride are still above guilt and shame. So this has always been interesting to me when you look at what is above what, right? So they say it's better to be angry than to be shameful. Now, this is a very fascinating thing, but the reason that I'm saying what is better, what is worse, is that it's a higher vibration. At least in anger, the energy is moving, right? In shame, it's usually very stagnant. It's almost frozen. It doesn't know what to do. It doesn't feel if shame is a very interesting emotion, and I experienced shame a lot in my life. I shared about this, I think, last time, but basically shame comes from when you feel like something in your life, you don't want anybody to know about it because it makes you feel like you're less than everybody else. So there's this part of it that just feels like you're below everybody. So that it's shame. So you hold on to it. And so that has to go. Getting rid of shame is a key element. And then also guilt. Guilt is another one. Sometimes we have self-guilt. It's oh, you should have done your yoga today. So now you feel guilt. You shouldn't have had that ice cream. So you feel guilt. But it could be you did something bigger. It could be you said something to somebody and it hurt their feelings or whatever. Could be even bigger. You got in a car accident, you wrecked your mom's car. Who knows? There's different ways that you could get into this shame and guilt. But what the important thing is to just heal that and let it go. And the way to do that, the way to heal shame and guilt is with forgiveness and self-love. So shame and guilt is coming from this deep disconnection from your true self, right? And so letting go of that and being okay, I forgive myself. Nobody's perfect. I love myself completely. This situation isn't perfect, but nobody's life is perfect. I am, I'm going to give myself some credit here and let it go, right? And so just in letting this go, you elevate your vibration. So then the next one up is apathy. So apathy is an interesting energy because it's you just don't care. A lot of people in this world are apathetic. They don't really care. You talk to them about what's going on in the world. Oh, that's tough to hear, but they don't really care. They don't want to do anything about it. Even in their own life, someone could be having bad health and they're apathetic. They're not trying to change. So if someone's apathetic, it's very hard to work with them. It's hard to work with them to get them to change. They have to want to change. So moving above that, grief. So grief, it's where, one of the things that I really believe about grief, it's like everybody will feel sadness in our life, which is loss, right? So my mother passed away many years ago, but I remember I had suffered grief for like, I don't know, 15, 20 years about it. And it's interesting because it's like grief and sadness are two different things. So sadness, everyone should experience sadness. If your mother passes away, you should feel sad. But grief is where the sadness does not go away and it just drags on. And it could drag on for years, decades. And grief causes a lot of health problems. I think lung cancers, people even say like the reason that people smoke is to numb grief. So because of the smoking is the lungs and the grief is connected to the lungs. And that's also in the book Journey to Joyful, this connection between grief or between smoking in the lungs or grief in the lungs. Each organ has an emotion connected to it. So the grief is connected to the lungs. So now we have the next one up, fear. Now, as we know, probably everybody here understands, there's so much fear in the world. And a lot of this has been perpetuated through the media, in the like news and everything. They actually figured out, they've done like extensive research to show that when they put things on the news that instill fear in the viewers, they get more viewers. And so they're like, oh, well, let's keep that going. And so instead of putting like, look at that lady, she saved the dog that was drowning, like cute stories that are lovely, instead they're like, look at the war, everyone's dying. And yeah, we do need to know about the things that are bad on the planet, but we don't need to see it all day, every day, because what it does is it just imprints a deeper print of fear into our reality. So basically, I am a proponent for us to do whatever we can to overcome fear. And for me, I have always felt the best way to do that is something that works for me. And I'd love to hear your thoughts if you guys have any ways that you feel that help you to overcome fear. But what I feel helps a lot to me is to do whatever you're afraid to do. So there's actually an acronym of fear, and it's one of them is false evidence appearing real. So this is like this idea of fear, that it's false evidence, but it appears real. So we have this fear. Now, the other one is fuck everything and rise. Or you could also say forget everything and rise. But the idea is let it go and go to the top, regardless of what it is. Just do it, right? And so, like, for example, I remember when I was young, I had this really interesting thing that happened. We used to live by a lake, and the lake had a huge rock in the middle, and they called the rock Alcatraz because it was a very cool, like, little rock island. And we would swim to the little rock island, it's quite big actually, and then climb up it, and we could do cliff jumping off the various levels of it. But there was a very, very top, and the top was like 80 feet high. And so it was like this kind of like competition, like who could jump off the top. But some kids had jumped and died because it's very high, and if you jump and you land wrong, you could really hurt yourself. You could break your neck probably. Some people died, and so they made it illegal to jump off the top. But anyway, me and my friends were really rebellious. We never listened to anything, so we would go to the top. So basically, I had this goal that I wanted to jump off the top, but I went to the top. The first time I went to the top, I was terrified. I was like, I looked down, I'm like, holy crap. So I didn't do it. I wimped out, and I like climbed down the backside, and I went down. And so 3 summers in a row, I tried it. I went to the top. I was like, I'm gonna do it, and then I wimped out and I climbed back down, didn't jump. So I think it was the third or fourth summer. I was like, okay, this is my chance. I'm going to do it this time or never, because I was going to be going to college. So I remember, and I went to the top and I was at the edge of this cliff. And this was like a huge moment overcoming a fear that had been like for years holding me back. It wasn't like necessarily like, no, I'm going to become a professional cliff jumper. I mean, it wasn't about that. What happens is when you overcome any fear, it actually ripples out into all fear that you could ever overcome. So it's like so interesting how the mind works. So that year, I remember I did it, and I actually just went to the edge. I did a little prayer, but I had visualized myself doing it because I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I had learned some techniques on the lower levels so that I knew that I need to keep my arms by my sides, point my toes. I'm gonna go down like a missile, and I did it, and it was like so liberating, and I always felt so empowered after that. And it helped me to see that when we overcome any fear, we overcome actually all fear. Because then, like for example, I've been skydiving. I had no fear skydiving. I mean, especially because I had like a parachute. I mean, skydiving is much safer. So I was like, wow, okay, well, this is going to be easy. So it helped me to overcome all fear. Not to say I have no fear. I think that I have different types of fear that arise, but it helped me to see, okay, if I was able to overcome that one, then I can apply that same mind over matter kind of technique to any fear. And so that has served me my entire life. And I really feel that we can all do that in some capacity. You don't have to jump off a cliff for that to happen, but you could do something like whatever makes you feel like, okay, I could do that, even though I've been having a fear about that. Some people have a fear of public speaking. Some people have a fear of social interactions, or like, one of the things that helped me overcome a lot of fear was actually doing a sales job, and I had to do like cold calling when I was in college, and I had to call people I didn't know, and I had to like try to sell them things all day. And I got so good because I just realized this person on the other side of the phone is a human too. Let me interact with them as if they're a human. And it got me more comfortable with like all sorts of things with communication and overcoming fear of rejection, fear of whatever other things I was afraid of. Let's see. Jennifer says, I have very strong intuition and I am so grateful for it. Oh, good. Alexander, I have good intuition and I have had visions of the future before, but I'm trying to clean up and strengthen always. Beautiful. Thank you, ladies, for sharing. It's an interesting thing, intuition, because feminine energy is the intuitive energy. So it is actually our responsibility as a woman almost, but like men need to strengthen this feminine quality as well. So this energy of intuition, it's like tapping into the knowing. And that's why I was saying it's so important in connecting the third eye with the second chakra. So the third eye, intuition, with second chakra, instinct, or we could call that the womb wisdom. So womb wisdom or gut instinct, those are kind of similar, but I think womb wisdom is a deeper knowing. And I think that women only have that. I don't think men have womb wisdom, but they do have gut instinct. But women are the intuitive. So that's why so often, like you can see, that's why men and women work well together, like because we actually do complement each other with different strengths. Like men tend to have, not to say it has to be this way, but this is just generally the masculine energy is like that energy of like, I got this, like providing, like stepping into that energy of like, being the supportive provider of the family and that kind of thing. That's the energy that men have to cultivate. But in the society that we have now, it's a little bit confused because the feminine roles have been turned upside down in some ways. Women are supposed to be providing, and so then there's a lot of masculine energy in the feminine side, and then the men, it's like confusion around that. So then there's like certain confusion around all this feminine masculine dynamic, whereas there was a time when it was kind of more clear in society. Now we've been going through a lot of like exploration phase, I guess. Hopefully, as we move more towards the Aquarian age, we're going to see the feminine energy strengthening, and for everybody, even for men, the intuitive, this like feeling like it's good to be in pleasure, but also the ability to receive, and then finding that balance. And that's what I really like, the yin yang, the ancient Asian principles of yin yang, which is like you want to have both masculine and feminine, you know, light and dark, and that is the complement, and that is the balance. And when we're out of balance, we can see that playing out in our life. And so I find it to be very interesting, if we can find the awareness of our own life and we say, where am I out of balance in my masculine feminine dynamic? Okay, let's go back to this for a second. Okay, so we were looking at fear. Now the next one up is desire. And it's interesting because as you see, we're getting a little bit out of the red, out of the orange. Desire is like the orange green. It's moving up. Now it's interesting because some people will talk about desire from a perspective that it is a good thing. So you don't want to feel like desire is a bad thing, you know, even though it's like kind of low vibration on this chart. But you don't want to be ruled by your desires, right? I think that's the key. Like, it's good to have desire because desire is actually the part of us that it makes us move towards something. Like, if you have no desire, for example, if you have desire for lunch, that means I'm gonna have lunch. Like, if you had no desire for food, you'd never eat. So you have to feel desire. But what happens is when people let desire rule their whole life, so they're just like, I need all these things, and the desire and lust, and it could be after something sexual, but it could be after money, it could be after power, it could be after fame. So all of this like desire, if it's in the form of lust and where it kind of like takes over, that's when it's not healthy. I think desire can be healthy if it's used in the right way, for sure. So, and it's interesting, you can see that anger on this chart is considered above desire. So anger, which is just basically like your passionate position on something, like let's say somebody makes you angry, could be based on what they said. It could be also, it makes you angry to see people getting killed in the war. Like that could it trigger a feeling of anger. Anger doesn't necessarily always bad thing, but it's like you don't want that feeling in you, because if you're holding on to anger at all, what it does is it actually sends a bunch of toxic chemicals throughout your body. So anger is toxic in your body at a biological level. It's not healthy to hold on to or feel a lot of anger. But if you have a little bit of anger, it's okay, and then you just want to find ways that release it, healthy ways. There's lots of things you can talk about with anger, but anger is interesting because, like I said, it could be that it's your passion about wanting the world to be safe, and then you're like angry because there's a war going on. But like, instead of channeling that passion into anger, we could channel it into ways to serve, right? And so that's the key, is that we want to find the root energy that's arising within us, and then we want to transmute it into a useful form. Next one up is pride. So pride is a very interesting thing, because like actually pride could sound like a good thing, right? Like, I'm proud of my country, right? I'm proud of my daughter, like I'm proud of myself. But pride could also be a negative, because let's say you have national pride, so you're proud of your country. So that actually somehow, in a way, creates division, because it means my country, I'm so proud of it, and in some ways it could be interpreted that my country's better than that country. So if it creates any kind of division or separation, that still makes it a lower vibration. So when we get stuck in pride, we separate ourselves from others. And also another way that pride can play itself out is where, for example, like if somebody does something that feels offensive, let's say, and then you're like, your pride gets triggered, and then you feel like you need to defend yourself. And so it triggers these other things if you have pride, right? And so, not to say you don't want a little bit of pride is good. Like, actually, I think a little bit of pride is good. You want to feel proud of who you are. You want to feel proud of your family, proud of your country, if you can. Just finding pride in a positive way is more like finding gratitude in a way too. So if you're proud of who you are, you're grateful for even the difficult things you've been through, and you're acknowledging who you are despite all of that. That's like another way of reframing pride to make it more positive. Let's see. now we're getting up to the next level. So you see this line, now we're going into the blue. So above getting by, moving into flow would require us to go into courage. I love the feeling of courage. Courage is that energy where it's like, even if I'm afraid, I'm going to do it anyway. Kind of like, I got this. And that's where we really like make this shift, right? The shift going from fear or whatever's holding us back into courage, where it's like, I can do this even if I feel this voice inside telling me not to, whatever, and then doing it anyway. Neutrality, interestingly enough, is above courage on this chart. Neutrality is kind of a feeling of like, it could go either way, I'm not affected, right? It's like neutrality. If you're neutral, like the energy of that is like, you're not on any side, which I like, because neutrality is more in the energy of oneness versus division. So when things are separate, it's like one or the other. And neutrality is like, I'm not taking sides. And then above that is the willingness. So willingness is like this feeling of, I'm going to give it a try no matter what. I'm going to try. I'm going to, whatever, like maybe I want to try to bring harmony to my family, or I'm going to try to do something that I'm afraid of. The willingness. I'm gonna commit to a daily practice of yoga and meditation. I'm gonna do a yoga teacher training because I want to deepen my awareness and my ability to handle life with consciousness. So there's different ways of looking at willingness, but it's this feeling of like an affirmative. It's like, I'm gonna do it. I'm willing. I'm a yes, right? Whereas these other ones like fear and stuff are like, I'm a no. Right. So as we're moving into the I'm a yes category of energy, that's when we see willingness. You see like flow is coming. So acceptance is a beautiful energy too. It's like acceptance is this feeling that, whatever is or was is just what it was or is. And there's nothing that you could have done to change that. One of the famous sayings, quote by Oprah is, she quotes, I'm trying to think who the original person, but basically she said that forgiveness is letting go of the idea that it could have been any different, right? So if something happened in the past, you forgive that. It's letting go of the idea it could have been any different. Another way to look at that is acceptance. You're accepting whatever it was. But this can also be applied to the present, which is accepting whatever it is, which is right now. So it's like acceptance is a very powerful, positive energy, because even if you don't want what's going on to happen, you accept that it's happening, then it doesn't create a negative charge. That's the important thing. You want to do whatever you can to not have negative charge. Then above that is reasoning. Right? So if you can reason with life, you're like, okay, I can see why this is happening. Even if it's not what you would choose to be happening, that you could see and you find reasonings in that. And then you can always find that silver lining. And then you can see now we're at the energy of love. Now, love and above is where flow is coming into the life, right? So this is where flow state is really based on. And you can see the final three: flow, pure Tao, ultimate consciousness. So this is the energy that we want to like be in all the time. But in order to be up here, many times we have to go down and work through our other energy, right? So if we need to work through guilt, shame, fear, grief, we need to work through that. We can't hide that in the closet. Like you can't repress that energy because it never goes away. The vibration stays blocked and it stays low if you don't release those lower energies. So even if you're like, yeah, I want to be in joy, but like you have this deep grief that you not need to heal, that's why we really focus on like learning how to heal your deeper traumas, because if you don't, they will always keep your vibration down and they will be blocking the flow. And so we have to focus on that. Like I spent my whole life focusing on, like one by one, healing those inner child traumas. And what I love about this work is that it does work. And the more you do that, the more you notice your vibration goes up and you just feel better. Doesn't mean that you're always in joy and love, but that that can become your default vibration, and that like These other ones, they only need to be whenever something is coming up, then you work with it. And then you're like, okay, I healed that. I'm so grateful. I wrap it in love and then let it go. And then once you complete with the process of like the healing of that, whatever it was, then you come back to like your baseline being joy. And that's a good place to be. Whereas a lot of people's baseline is fear or apathy or a lot of those lower ones. So I feel like it's super important. You guys can also, if you want, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts. And also if it's ever, like if you know that there's a, let's say one of these emotions that we've been talking about that you feel that you've been working on or that you want to work on more, if you have any questions about that, because I definitely feel that we can work on that. That's like really where this program shines. Like that's why I believe everybody should do this flow state yoga teacher training and this type of work, is because ultimately everybody has some of this inner blocks to heal. And the way to work on it doesn't just like work on itself. What it actually, we have to focus on it. We have to go in and work on it. And the way to do that is by, the awareness practice. So our awareness practice is like through the meditation, but it's also through whatever's coming up in your life, right? That's been my greatest teacher. It's like, what's coming up for me in my life? And because that is how I'm going to be able to know what to work on now, right? And so if something's coming up with, we'll say like a relationship dynamic or financial dynamic, whatever it is, we can be like a sleuth and really find like what chakra is blocked here, or where is my baseline energy, so that, and like what is that connected to? Is it connected to something from the past that I need to heal, right? And so like working through this in life is the way that we heal and grow. We can do it very, very methodically, like one by one. That's why I really believe in journaling as well, because as you write down like what's coming up for you, you can really start to be more clear of, okay, I'm going to work on that. I'm going to spend this week working on that thing. And then, or maybe this whole month, or however long it takes, maybe just today is all you need. But like really getting clear on what it is, and then creating a ritual for yourself that's going to help you to work through it, to heal it. And these practices that we have in the flow state yoga teacher training, there's so many different practices, but they're all prescriptive in a way, right? So like you need to open your heart. There are kriyas for that, or there's practice of breath work, there's mantra, there's a lot of different things. If we need to clear grief or some kind of deeper energy of shame or something, a lot of these practices work on the biological and fundamental level, and they will with time help you to work through all of that. So that's what this is all for. And then the wonderful thing is you can help other people with this too. One thing that I noticed is when people are open to healing, they will be open to doing these things. If people are not open to healing, then they just try to numb their pain with drinking or drugs or sex or gambling or whatever other addictive behavior that they're doing to try to numb the pain that's coming up in their life. Those people are harder to work with. You want to work with people that are tired of numbing and that are ready for healing. And that readiness is what determines their success. Honestly, the readiness and the willingness, those energies is going to make the world of difference, that this person can actually heal. If you're not ready and willing, then it doesn't matter. They're not going to do it. So don't bother. So you really want to talk to people before you work with them, if they're your client, and just be like, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready and willing are you to heal? How ready and willing are you to move beyond this thing that you're dealing with, right? And if it's a 10, then you have, or like even an 8 to 10 or something, then you have somebody that's going to like do the work. Because the bottom line is you have to do the work. You're not going to just snap your fingers or take a pill and all your problems are gone. It doesn't work like that. That's why people need health coaches and like, healers, because that's, a lot of times when we're working through these deeper energies, we need somebody to help us through that. Let's see, Jennifer said, I have just worked through some shame thanks to you and a lot of the meditations. I'm working through some grief. So going back through them now so I can heal that and wrap it in love. Oh, I love that, Jennifer. Thank you for sharing. It's so beautiful. You know, it's so interesting because we really are a family. Like I look at you guys as like my family, honestly. And I think about how beautiful it is when you're doing the work and you're like really putting in the effort. And I love to see or hear you getting results because that's what this is all about. I dedicated my entire life to this because I had so much trauma and so much to heal. But like the fact that I can help others through that and hopefully limit or minimize the amount of suffering that other people will have to deal with, to me is what motivates me, because I'm like, wow, wouldn't it be nice to condense the amount of time that it took me, you know, down to like 1 year instead of like 15 or something. You know, we can minimize people's suffering, which is like the best job in the world. If you can literally minimize someone from 15 years of suffering, or even some people would suffer their whole life. Some people who don't ever get the healing they need, they literally will end up at age 100 still suffering because it doesn't go away on its own. It has to be dealt with, you know, and that's the interesting thing. My sister's a nurse and she has these different like patients that came to her in the hospital over the years, and they're like on their deathbed. They're like older people and they have, you know, their final words so often at the end of their life is kind of things like, I wish I would have let go of, you know, this anger that I had towards my sister, or you know, like I wish I would have spent more time doing the things that I loved, whatever it is. So if you think about what could be like the end of your life regrets, what I always like to do is look at it like, well, instead of waiting for the end of your life to regret that, just don't, you know, shift it now, you know, and you can look at it like that. Like, okay, what would I, if I was sitting there, it was my last day on earth, what would I look back on and wish I would have done differently? More often than not, we could definitely say, I wish I would have, let's say, I wish I would have you know, just spent more time enjoying life, right? That's actually a very common one too. I wish I would have spent more time enjoying life. And so that, instead of waiting till you're 100 to have that regret, just now, just every day, be like, okay, I'm going to spend more time enjoying life, whatever that looks like for you. Okay, we're going to go back. Here we are. We're almost done. So we're at love. Now, we talked about love, the heart being the center point of all these energy centers in your chakras. So obviously we know that because it's in the middle. But the other thing that's so interesting, most people don't realize, there's a lot of research from the Heart Math Institute. And one of the studies that they showed was that the heart actually has 5,000 times more power than the mind, which most people don't realize that. A lot of people focus on the mind, which I really do too. I think the mind is really important. It's very powerful. But your heart has 5,000 times more power than the mind. So I think that's interesting. So as we focus on the energy of love in our heart, that and love and gratitude are in the same vibration. Love and gratitude are both in this 500. That's the starting point of flow. Love and gratitude, flow. And then joy, peace. And the top one is this ultimate consciousness, which is pure Tao. It's a very interesting thing. Now I want to show you one other chart, since we're looking at charts today, because this one's also really cool. I'm putting these in the new version of Journey to Joyful for you guys, by the way. But I like this chart too. These are interesting to understand because as you understand these energy grids, you can start to help people better too. Like here's an interesting one. So this has those same emotions. This is from Power versus Force by David Hawkins. So basically shame. Now look at this. So here's the number 20, very, very low. The emotion, humiliation. And then the life view, miserable. So someone living in shame and is humiliated is feeling miserable. Okay, guilt. Blame is the emotion. So it's like blaming yourself or blaming the world or blaming the government or blaming other people. It's an energy of blame, and the life view is evil, meaning like these people are evil, things like that. Apathy, it's a little higher, but not much. Despair is the emotion. So you're feeling despair. And then the life view is life is hopeless. Then we have grief. So the emotion is regret. And the life view is tragic. So it's like, this was tragic. Maybe someone died, you have this, but the regret often is the energy of, I wish I would have seen them one more time. I wish I would have been there. Whatever that feeling, but this regret, and then it feels tragic, like that. You can't believe that it happened like this. And then we have desire. Oh no, we got fear. So fear, it gives this feeling of anxiety. So here's where most of the world is, in this feeling of anxiety. Actually, anxiety is the fear that the future is going to be bad. So anxiety is usually about the future. And you could see they put the worldview that it's frightening. So it's like the idea that, like, for example, people that I know, that I don't really have a lot of anxiety, but the anxiety feeling is that the future could not work out. It could be really bad. Like, it could get worse. Like, this gives anxiety. So then your feeling is you're not safe. And then you're frightened that things are going to just get worse. That's a feeling of fear that gives us anxiety. So we want to help people. If you have anxiety, if you know other people with anxiety, a lot of people suffer with anxiety. In fact, I think most of the world has anxiety. But like those other ones, shame and guilt, those will be bringing more like depression. People who are in shame and guilt and grief are going to be more depression, whereas fear brings anxiety. Now, as we move up, desire, it creates the emotion of craving, and then what that leads to is disappointment. So it's like, if you want something and you crave it, but you can't have it. So it's this loop of like unfulfillment. So that's why that one is a low vibration. And then only if you're stuck in that loop. Desire doesn't have to be a low vibration if it doesn't give you this loop. And then the next one up is anger. So you can see here, anger creates the emotion of hate. So you're like angry that this is happening, and then like that creates this toxic emotion of hate. And then the life view, it says, is antagonistic. So basically it's like this, antagonistic means that they're like starting a fight almost, right? It's like this feeling of like, I'll fight. Now the next one up, pride, and the emotion is scorn, and the life view is demanding. So this is an interesting one. Courage, next one up, the emotion is affirmation. See how it shifted? Now we're in the good energy. So now as we work with affirmations, then feasible. Life view is feasible. It means like it's possible, it's doable. Like things are gonna happen. That's courage. That's like having faith, is going into this courage. Now neutrality is trust. So trust and faith are spiritual energy. Like when we move into faith and trust, we're in courage. Then you start to see, okay, we have trust, and then life view, satisfactory. So you start to see like, life is actually good. Neutrality, it's like you're not in any kind of crisis, So this is a moving up. Willingness is the next one. And now you're in optimism. Leave a comment if you're an optimist. I believe, and I've seen studies that show that optimism is actually one of the keys to happiness and success in life. There's so many people who live life pessimistic, like, oh, it's not going to work out, and all these like negative things that then it predicts it, and then it creates it, and then they have more of that. But optimism is a predictor of success, because if you keep being optimistic, eventually it's going to work out. Let's see, Jennifer says, absolutely, I have to think that things will be good. Exactly. Okay, optimism is such an important quality. So, and then the life view with optimism is hopeful. You're like, I'm hopeful, it's going to work out, it's going to be beautiful. And then next one up, acceptance. So forgiveness is in that category. So if you accept, that's what I was saying when Oprah said, forgiveness is letting go of the idea that it could have been any different. So forgiveness, you just accept that it is what it was and you let it go. And with that, you have harmonious worldview. So it's like all is good. If you have let it go and you just accept that it is what it was, and that you forgave it all, you forgave yourself, you forgave everybody involved, you forgive the whole world, now we can feel harmonious, at least within ourselves. This is where we're like, we are becoming the eye of the storm here in this harmonious level of 350 acceptance. Now we go up to reason. So in reason, the emotion is understanding. So this is where you're like, yeah, I actually understand. This is what I was explaining. I was trying to explain to my sister during Thanksgiving dinner, and I was like trying to help her understand why our other sister needed to leave, even though dinner was just getting served. She's like, she needs to go home and, put this baby to bed. Otherwise, she will not sleep all week. And she didn't understand that. But I was trying to help her to understand. Once we have an understanding with each other, we can, and you see this one, the life view is meaningful. We can see that there was meaning in it, and we don't take it personally. So this is like the key to that, like reasoning and finding the understanding so that we don't take it personally, then we can see the meaning of it. Now the next one up, 500, is love. And love is the good energy we all want to have as the flow. This is where we get into flow the most, is when we get into the love, and it's reverence. Now reverence is one of my favorite words in the world, reverence. Because reverence is a spiritual feeling. So reverence is this feeling of not just I love you, but I love life. Like when I think of reverence, like if you love a person, that's one kind of love. But love for life itself, a reverence for life, means that it's a deep spiritual, it's actually a deeper feeling of love. Although love can feel deep no matter what, but like ultimately the deepest feeling of love is this deep feeling of reverence, and the other level of that is compassion. But like this feeling that we are a spiritual world, we are spiritual beings, and that, like that love that comes from the knowing of that God is with us, the love of God, the love of life, the love of our life, the love of our family, the love of all of humanity, the love of Mother Earth. This is the reverence, instead of it being just like this romantic idea, like I'm in love. Because what happens with the romantic love, which is still good, but that it oftentimes goes sour because it's sometimes connected to the feeling of like attachment. So it's like, I'm in love, but then as long as you're doing the things I want you to do. But if you do the things I'm not liking you to do, now the feeling is like affected. We don't want to have our feelings of love affected by what goes on outside of us. We want to feel love and reverence regardless of what happens outside of us. That's why reverence is such an important part of love, because it takes love from this personal one-on-one thing and brings it into a spiritual universal energy. Okay, a couple more. Then they have here that the worldview is benign, and I'm going to just say what that means. Benign means that it's neither, nothing is really one thing or the other necessarily. It's just benign. So when you have this energy of love, it's not dependent upon anything outside of us. So that's what this benign means. Now we have joy, which is connected to the emotion of serenity. So if we have serenity, of just a natural joy arises within us, and we feel this joy inside, and we're just like, wow, actually, like peace, is our nature, and life is beautiful, and you see the life view is complete. So I want you to really think, as we're going through this, like, where is my life view right now, right? Or like lately, or, it can change from time to time, but like, where is your baseline life view? And then the next one up is peace, and peace, the emotion is bliss. When you're in true peace, a bliss arises that is so, there's a word for ineffable, which is the next one up, but it's like almost beyond words. But the life view is that everything is perfect. So if you ever find yourself saying it's all perfect, like the whole divine order of life is perfect, so then that's in this 600 peace, bliss vibration. The highest one they say here is enlightenment, and that is ineffable. Ineffable means beyond words. And the life view of that is it just is. So I love that one because it's like instead of being like, oh, it's perfect or whatever, it just is. And there's no need for more description because life just is. And so instead of attaching ourselves to one view of it or the other, it just is. And that's the enlightened view where we don't label it, we don't need to categorize it because life just really truly is. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? I find this to be very important to bring, especially into the early stage of the yoga teacher training. And what I do sometimes when I was teaching the live work, live setting, we would always have this on a whiteboard and I would write it the first day. And every day people will look at this on the whiteboard and then just ask yourself, where are you today on this chart? You know, what emotion is arising? What worldview is arising? And not to say that's your baseline, but like if something is arising that was lower than when you started, what that means is something is coming up to be healed, right? If you have a baseline that's usually love and joy, and then all of a sudden you're like processing this deep emotion, which came about from like inner child trauma, and it's like shame or guilt or something, then it's okay. But you have to just work through that and allow that to move through you. And then as you do the process around it, that's when you see and you move it into the higher realm of like forgiveness, acceptance, gratitude, love, and joy, and you wrap it in all of that and you let it go. This is something that I have done continuously over and over in my life and with my clients and students for 20 years almost. And it's so powerful when, let's say, you've been holding on to grief. One woman, one of the young ladies actually who came to my training, she came to the 200 and then the 300, so she did the 500 hours with us, and she had been processing grief for a long time because her mother passed away. And sometimes it's very hard to process these things alone. Like she's a very conscious person, but it's hard to process these things alone sometimes. So she came and we did some the breath work, the rebirthing breath work that we do was the powerful catalyst that helped her to finally find completion with that grief. And she was able to release it and let it go. And then all of a sudden, like she literally was like, I have a video of her talking about this because she was just beaming with just like absolute joy, because she is this being of just beauty and joy and love. But like that grief had been like a cold, wet, like blanket dampening her vibe inside of her that she didn't even know how to like get it out, so it was like sad to think, because it's like, oh, it's connected to her mother, so it's like, you don't want to like describe it like a blanket, but like ultimately that's really what this is. It's an energy that's dampening your vibe, right? So we just want to work through that. And so whatever arises through this training is absolutely perfect and divine, and I want you to always just be in that acceptance of the energy, because ultimately it is our opportunity to heal. And as we use this vessel, this training portal that you're in with us together, that you can see that the more work you put in, the more you get out of it, right? And so if you're willing to go to the depth, you will see miracles and blessings, unbelievable, coming into your life. I was able to see that with my own life. It's like every time I release something that's really deep and core, like that's been holding me down, it always, like, next thing from there, you start to really see like miracles, flow, abundance. But like when you're working through it, it can feel like, when is this gonna be over? Right? There's different ways of feeling, but like ultimately you just want to be in a portal of acceptance and like holding yourself with love. And let me ask you guys, I'd like to open it up for any questions, and also sharing. If you want to, you can share, and also we're going to do a little practice today because today is the full moon, and I wanted to do this workshop about the emotion so you can see where you might be at. And also, if you're in the teacher training, of course, you want to be able to have the awareness of all this for yourself, for your students, for your clients, just for your education. But we're going to do a little practice with journaling, and I'm excited. I'm going to be releasing these new journals. They're so beautiful. You can see it's like this goddess journal. It goes with the teacher training. We're going to be releasing that sometime soon. And also these blue lotus oil, which I'm very, very excited about. Blue lotus oil is a euphoric inducing. It was used in ancient Egypt. And what I like to do is during my meditation, I'll just like put it all over. It's also very nourishing because this one is mixed with moringa. We have this available at brightfuture.org, and I love it. It's so good. It's so delicious, and it does invoke a euphoric, beautiful energy. But also, it's healing for your skin, and I like to just breathe it in. Ah, so nice. Anyway, if you have a journal, you want to get your journal. We are going to do a little practice together, and if you don't have a journal, you can do it on your computer, but it is nicer to write with a pen on paper. I'm a huge proponent for this, and actually there's science, I guess, that backs this up, that says that when you write on paper, it makes a difference in the way that your consciousness processes what you write, and it ingrains it in a different way, which can help you to manifest what you're calling in or whatever easier and with more clarity. What I think about it is that writing it is actually the first step to bringing it from the ethers, like the invisible realm, into the physical realm, right? Because even if it's only on paper, at least it's out of your mind and into the paper. So we're going to do practice, and we're going to do a little meditation. This is something I've been doing that I love. So we're not going to do the whole thing because the whole thing would, the whole meditation, it's called quantum healing, quantum meditation. So the first part of this, before we get into writing, actually, we'll do the writing part first so that we just put this aside. So all you want to do is write down one goal. Today we're going to just do one goal. Maybe you can do one that you feel like you could accomplish by the end of the year. So you could feel like this year was the amazing year that you wanted it to be, with the completion of this one goal and with a deadline, like a timeline that you're going to put on this one manifestation. And then you want to put a date with that. So let's say you're like, I'm going to accomplish this thing by 12/31. So December 31st. Interestingly, by the way, 12/31 is an interesting day because it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 12, 1, 2, 31, 3, 1, and then we're in the year 2023. So 2, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3 to 1, 2, 3. So I think it's a very auspicious time if you want to use that one. But you could use any date that you feel like it would be nice to accomplish this goal or this dream or whatever you want to do. So that's the date that I'm going to use. And then you're going to just write down one goal. And whatever it is, just make it feel like it's not too far out there like that. But don't be too conservative either. You're like, I just want to, do this like simple thing, like wake up early one day. Like make it something that's meaningful, that could be significant for your life, and that could actually move the needle on where you want to end this year on the highest possible note for yourself. So take a moment to write that down. Okay. If you need more time, that's okay. Let me know. So what I like about this is so often when I do these practices, so often I put like so many things I want to manifest, and it'll be like 2 pages of stuff, which is like cool too, and I like doing that. And then there's different ways of doing that, but I want to try to do one thing right now because sometimes we have 1 month left of the year, so it's really a feeling of like, okay, like you want to set yourself up for success. Sometimes when we don't when we say, oh, I want all these things, and then you don't get them, then you're like, oh, it didn't work. What we want is to give you this one like huge win for the end of the year. And if you did this one thing, that you would feel so excited, and that this would be like have been an incredible year, and you're ending on such a high note, and that the next year is just like moving forward from that high note, right? So that's really where we want to do. And even if it's something like deep, like a healing, could be like, I want to heal my relationship with my family, whatever. It could be something like that, but it would still be that you're leaving the end of the year on such a high note that only good comes from that. And so all the energy from there is just up and up. So that's your goal. You know, write that down. And now we're gonna do our practice. Let's see. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Instead of me guiding it, I'm gonna put on a guided audio with another girl that I know that leads this meditation, and I think you're gonna really like it because she has a beautiful voice. She's from New Zealand, Regan Helier. She's a friend of mine, and she guides us. It's a quantum meditation. It's about 30 minutes, so you want to prepare yourself for that. It'll be the completion of this whole workshop, but we're going to do this together, and I'll just have it so you'll be able to hear it through here, and just follow along. You can have your eyes closed. Eyes closed is a good way to go, but let's begin.
That this process be so fun and so easy and so rapid, so quantum, as you allow yourself to simply connect with that one specific manifestation that you wrote down earlier. That's it. Taking a moment to call into the space any divine guidance that you personally request be with you on this journey. And now dropping your awareness from your mind simply down into your heart. That's right. At any moment you feel yourself back in your mind space, you can just imagine your mind jumping in a little elevator or a lift and just simply dropping down from your mind, from past your shoulders and into your heart. That's it. Allowing this coded medicine to drop you into a place of deep transformation that is deeper than anywhere you have shifted in before, allowing everything to shift and transform with total ease, with total grace, with total flow. Allowing this beautiful manifestation to be actualized and intentionalized into your physical reality on or before the chosen date and time, and allowing it to sync up, inviting in any divine synchronicities, any divine surprises that you get to experience along the way, in full alignment with your divine plan, in full alignment with the highest version of you, so that ultimately you can be more in this world and do more in this world and serve to the greatest capacity that you're here to serve. Having full awareness right now of your current now in relation to this manifestation that you're calling in. That's it. And with curious, childlike eyes, we see this manifestation and we notice that it has absolutely nothing to do with what is going on right now. We're simply aware of the now, but vibrationally we are connected to the manifestation. That's it. Go ahead right now and pull up a screen in front of you. Allow the screen to simply float in front of you. It may look like a computer screen or a movie screen. It's all perfect. And I want you to see yourself actually achieving that manifestation in the moment, physically manifesting it. And I want you to look at the detail around what's going on, who's around you, what are they saying, what's going on, what are you saying to yourself? That's it. And I want you to simply notice how divine and how perfect and how easy this manifestation really gets to be. Good. Go ahead and make any adjustments that would make this picture absolutely perfect for you right now. You'll have a chance to come back to it later down the track in this process, but for now, just get it looking absolutely perfect. Good. Now go ahead and jump into the movie screen. So you're actually in the screen. Now you're looking at this manifestation through your own eyes. That's it. And you're noticing what you're saying to yourself. You're noticing what you're hearing. You're noticing the feeling, the vibration of being you in that moment. Literally achieving that manifestation with so much ease, with so much grace, and with so much flow. That's it. Now from this place, noticing everything that's around you, go ahead and pull up a screen. So now there's a screen because inside the screen, because you're in the screen, right? So go ahead and pull up another screen. And from this place, I want you to ask yourself, well, considering I'm living into my vision, what is my vision right now? That's it. And in that moment, as you're literally dropping into that manifestation, see yourself achieving the vision beyond your vision in the screen right now. That's it. Notice exactly what's going on. Notice how perfect it gets to be. Go ahead and make any adjustments to make it look, sound, or feel absolutely perfect for you right now. As you notice the emotion and the vibration of what it feels like to be you in the screen right now, achieving this manifestation as you're literally watching yourself achieve that next manifestation in the screen right now. That's it. Good. Go ahead right now and simply jump out of the screen. That's it. Jump out of the screen. Have awareness of the screen. We're going to come back to it in a minute. But for now, when you connect to that screen and when you connect energetically to that manifestation, that vision that you're connecting with, go ahead and simply bring your awareness to any limiting structures that in the past have held you back from truly dropping in with this manifestation, from having this manifestation show up in the physical right now. That's it. Notice the structures of the fear. Notice the structures of the self-doubt. Notice the structures of telling yourself that you're not enough, or it needs to be like this, or you need to be like that. Notice all of it that's relevant to you. If you like, you can even visualize these. You can visualize them as ropes or ties around the screen or disconnecting you from the screen. Whatever it looks like, go ahead and give it visual form. That's it. Allow yourself to see these limiting structures which have held you back. And from this place, go ahead and simply command that these limiting structures now dissolve. That's it. Dissolve them. Dissolve them out of your field, out of your reality, dissolve them for humanity. They're not yours. They've been imprinted upon you at some certain time, and they no longer serve you. We do this with gratitude and love, remembering that all of these structures were connected into your field at one point because there were lessons attached to them. We remember that they are not ours, but that we do get to dissolve them right now. So our field is open and so our field is clear. Any last piece of structure that gets to dissolve, go ahead and simply command that it dissolves right now. Notice we do not cut or blow it up or do something drastic, because then that creates a reaction cycle of it coming back. When we dissolve it, it is done. It is gone. It is shifted. Let it go with ease, with grace, and with flow. That's right. Good. Go ahead right now and tune into your body and notice the limiting structures that used to be in your field. Notice where they were felt in your body. It may be your chest, it may be your stomach, it may be anywhere in your body. Just tune into wherever that place is. We're connecting now with the core of these distortions. Remembering that these distortions were imprinted on your field and they have not served you, and they are no longer there. We're releasing and healing the core wound of where these came from. That's it. So from this place, tuning in to wherever it is on your body right now, go ahead and simply give that feeling a physical form. Maybe it's a ball, maybe it's a square, whatever it is for you. Go ahead and give it physical form. What does it look like? Go ahead right now and continue to notice the color. that this form, this object has. That's it. Now from this place, take that colored object and simply request that it moves out of your body. That's it. Let it go. Let it shift out. You may feel it shift out. You may see it shift out. You may do none of the above. Just know it is shifting right now. And as you hover this object in front of you, go ahead and allow it to now spin. That's it. Spin the object until it starts changing color from whatever color it was. That's it. Continue to spin it faster, 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 faster. That's it. Spin it up, spin it up, spin it up until it becomes a blur of white light. That's it. And from this place, surround the spinning blur of white light with golden light, with golden energy. That's it. Allowing this once distortion to be instantly transformed into the most beautiful gift that you are aware of right now. That's it. And from this place, allow this golden ball of spinning white gold light to come back into your field, back into your energy body, back into your emotional body, back into your physical body, allowing it to anchor in your heart. As you let yourself receive all of the gifts that you were unable to see before. As you allow this gift to now literally break up and explode through your body, activating every cell of your system with the gifts of golden light, allowing all of this light to flow through your system. That's it. As you drop into the bliss of how good it is to receive all these divine gifts in the moment. Through this whole process, through all these gifts, you start to remember. You start to remember who you are. You start to remember who you are. You start to remember who you are. And from this place, activated with golden light through every cell of your body, we get to go in and now we get to recode. This is where we get to play. This is where you get to ask yourself from this clear and open and expansive place, what do I desire to have in my field? What codes or patterns of information would serve me in connecting with this manifestation and having it show up with so much ease, grace, and flow? That's it. Make the request right now that the new codes be brought down into your field and be anchored into your system. You may just make that simple request, or you may request specific codes that you desire. Maybe you request the code of confidence, of ultimate confidence. Maybe you request the code for divine love to be activated through your system. Maybe you request the code for divine abundance to flow through every part of your being. Maybe you just make the general request that all the codes that you desire and require right now be brought in. They're being locked in, they're being locked in, they're being locked in. As you feel your field start to shift and re-anchor and recode itself, you may even feel parts of your physical body recoding in this process. You may feel nothing, either way is just perfect as we surrender and allow these new codes to jump in. That's right. Good. From this place now, go ahead and ask yourself, when was the very first time as a child that you felt either not good enough or not loved? And whatever answer comes to your head, if it's above the age of 7, ask yourself again and go back earlier. Whatever age comes to you will be just perfect. Maybe you were 2, maybe you were in the womb, maybe you were 4. I want you to go ahead right now and float up above your body. Float up above now, just like before. That's it. And go ahead and start to float back, all the way back. That's it. Float back through all the timelines, through all the moments in time. Back, 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 back. That's it. Float all the way back until you're there. In that very moment where that little version of you was experiencing something that made them feel not enough or not loved. That's it. Go ahead right now and simply notice what's going on. See the world through his eyes or through her eyes. And let yourself feel a little bit of what they felt in this moment. Yeah, that's right. I want you to go ahead and give this little beautiful child exactly what he or she needed in this moment. That's it. You can hug her. You can love her. You can hug him. You can love him. You can tell them how important and beautiful they really are. You can tell them that it's okay. Look what really happened in this situation. You can let them know that they're safe. Whatever it is that your little child needs right now, go ahead and continue to give it to them. That's right. And when that starts to shift a little bit and feel more complete, go ahead and lean down or hold or look this little child in the eyes and go ahead and let him or her know how special they really are, how important they are, how much they matter. Let them know that you have come all the way back from your future just because they're this important, just because they're this special, just because you wanted to be with them in this moment right now. That's it. Let them know that the beautiful future lies ahead of them and that they're going to make it at least this far. Show them some of the gifts. Show them some of the magic. Show them some of the beauty. Let them know what's actually available. That's it. From this place, you can sit or lie or hold this little version of you, connecting with them and allowing that to reintegrate into them and into you simultaneously. Go ahead right now, and we're going to call a third energy into the space. This energy is your higher self. Go ahead and invite your higher self to now be present in this field with the little version of you. You may see your higher self, you may feel it, you may just know that it is present, it's just perfect. Inviting your higher self to come in and integrate in and show you the true essence of the highest version of you. That's it. Remembering that this version of you is a version of you that's simply on a time construct, operating in another dimension, another moment of time. And just like you went back for that little boy or that little girl, well, this higher self has come back for you. And as you connect to your higher self with so much love and so much gratitude, go ahead and invite your higher self to integrate into your heart center. That's it. Just invite your higher self in. Allow it to shift into your field right now, into your body right now. That's it. Allow it to fully lock into place and anchor in, knowing that after this moment, this version of you will be available to you at any given time. Knowing that at any moment, you will be able to access the highest version of you with the highest vibration at any given time. That's it. Good. Go ahead right now and either say farewell to that little child, or you can also invite that little child to jump into your heart as well, whatever feels best for you. And once you are complete, go ahead and float up above that moment. That's it. Float up with your higher self and your inner child integrated. And hovering above that moment, just before that moment, look down on that moment. Look down on that scenario. And from that place, go ahead and choose that. And as you make that choice in that moment, you now look towards your now, and you notice that from this layer of the past looking towards your now, you're noticing the timelines shift and adjust and shift and adjust and shift and adjust and reevaluate themselves in light of what just took place and the integration that just took place in your past. That's it. Notice timelines instantly dissolve and collapse that no longer serve you. Notice timelines drop out of your field that are no longer relevant. Notice new ones pull in order to greatly stabilize your future with unconscious and energetic learnings and lessons that you are now able to pull from as all of this shifts and reevaluates themselves in light of this work. That's it. Good. As you're noticing all of these shifts and readjustments, continue to float back all the way back to now until you're hovering above now and looking out towards your future. Notice the timelines are doing the same thing, shifting, readjusting, reevaluating themselves in full support of your highest self, in full support of you being in the highest vibration, of full support of this manifestation, which is now getting locked into your future. That's it. Good. Turn back to that screen that's hovering above now. That's it. Connect with that screen. And from this place, from this energy in your field, having released distortions, having literally released structures that in the past are limiting you, with your higher self anchored in, with your inner child on board with this, from these eyes, have a look at that screen. That's it. Notice what's going on in that movie. And you can't help but notice that there's now a dial that's appeared on the side of the screen. And as you go ahead with childlike curiosity, you reach out and you begin to shift the dial, and you notice that this is the brightness of the movie. And so go ahead and crank the brightness up, turn it all the way up, up, until it's so bright that it's almost white light and you can hardly see anything anymore. That's it. Now go ahead and turn it down, dim it out. That's it. Take all the light out of it, out. Completely black and white now. Darkness. Now go ahead and turn it up, until this image looks totally perfect, totally bright, totally real, exactly as it is, as you see yourself locking in this manifestation in that exact moment on the movie screen. That's it. Good. As you continue to notice, there's a second dial that's appeared on the side of the screen. And as you reach out for this one, you start playing, you start turning, you turn it up, and you notice that this is the saturation. That's it. And you turn the saturation up. It becomes brighter and brighter, more and more saturated. Almost looks like you're in a cartoon. That's it. And now turn it down, desaturate it, take all the color out of it until it's black and white. Good. Now go ahead and turn up the saturation. That's it. Turn it up until it's absolutely perfect, totally real, exactly how it's meant to be, as you watch yourself achieving this manifestation in the screen right now. Good. Notice that there's a third dial, which has now come onto this. That's it. A third dial, which when you reach out to it, you start to play with it and you notice that this is the volume. That's it. And as you're aware of all the sounds around you and all the sounds internally in your own head, I want you to go ahead and crank up that volume. That's it. Crank it up until it becomes so loud, it's almost unbearable. That's it. Now turn it down. Now it's just a whisper. That's it. And then now turn it up. Turn it up so it's absolutely perfect. The perfect volume for you right now as you watch yourself walking in this divine manifestation in the screen right now. That's it. Good. And you can't help but notice that there's a fourth and final dial that now appears. And as you reach out to this one, you get a hint that this is the feeling dial. That's it. And as you notice the feelings start to accumulate in your body of how good it feels to be you achieving this manifestation in the screen right now, I want you to go ahead and crank this dial up. That's it. Crank it up, turn it up. And we're not going to turn this back the other way. We're going to leave this on full blast, right? That's it. Crank it up. Feel it through every cell of your body. That's it. And just when you think it can't get any more powerful or any stronger than this, go ahead and double the emotion. That's it. Let it double the emotion running through every single cell. And then from this place, go ahead and allow yourself to triple the emotion. That's it. Let it run through your system. That's it. Perfect. Run through. Triple it until it's totally real, totally ecstatic, feeling so amazing in this moment right now. That's it. from this place. From this place, I want you to go ahead and actually pick up the screen in front of you. You're going to raise your hands and hold the screen in front of you and allow it to vibrate in your hands. That's it. That's it. Physically hold your arms up and have the screen in front of you. And notice how good it feels, by the way, to be holding this screen. Notice the life force, vital energy, which is flowing through this screen right now. Notice how real it feels, how vibrant it feels. That's it. And from this place, we're going to go ahead and simply float up. That's it. Float up, holding the screen, noticing how vibrant and amazing it feels. And you're going to float out towards your future. That's it. Go ahead and float out, 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 continuing to see all the timelines shift and readjust and reevaluate themselves until you're hovering just above that very moment in time, that specific date, that very moment in time, that date which you chose that this manifestation is going to be locked into place, right? And so from this place, have the screen vibrating in your hands in front of you, and with all your heart and all your intention, go ahead and drop the screen down into your reality. That's it, allowing it to sink and float and ultimately lock in to place exactly where it gets to be in this moment. Allow it to sink in and stabilize. All the magic, all the intention, all the energy, as you see that screen click perfectly into place on that exact date. That's it. And from this place, hovering just above that moment and just before the moment, from that place, looking down on that event now locked into your future, go ahead and choose that. Go ahead and choose reality. Choose that moment. Good. And with so much gratitude, allowing yourself to begin to float all the way back to now, only as quickly as you can stop and notice the timelines once again shift and reevaluate themselves in light of this new manifestation. Notice the divine guidance, the divine support that has showed up for you in your future because of what you chose in your field. Notice the synchronicities that now appear where you have them in the physical and you look back and go, oh yeah, I kind of knew that would happen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Notice your higher self being totally present in this journey, totally connected, in full support of you living into your highest vibration of this truth that was just locked into your future. Notice your inner child and how safe and supported and a part of the process that they get to be, allowing you to have so much fun with this, allowing you to play with this, allowing you to remember that it's all just a child's cosmic game at the end of the day. That's it. Notice how quick you are to catch any limiting structures or any elements of distortion which pop into your field in the future. Notice you now have an awareness where you can catch it, where you can see it, and where you can remember, that's not mine, but I choose to shift it right now. And notice as you reflect on yourself, connecting back in these moments in your future, notice that you constantly continue to remember who you are. You 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 remember why you were here. You remember why you were here. You remember who you are. That's it. And coming back, floating all the way back to now, hovering above now, coming back down into now, remaining in the field of your heart, remaining in your body with so much gratitude for what just got to take place in your field, with so much gratitude for what just got locked into your divine future, with so much gratitude for the reconnection to how powerful you really are, with so much gratitude as you continue to remember from this moment forth exactly where you are and exactly how fun and easy it all gets to be. Allowing yourself to sink into your physical body. You might want to wiggle your fingers or your toes, bringing your awareness back past your body into the room, back into the space.
And coming back, you can open your eyes if you are still have the eyes shut. And I just want to complete today's session. Hopefully you enjoyed that meditation. I like to share different practices from friends of mine. This is a quantum manifestation meditation, which I think is really beautiful. You can always go back and watch this again if you want to do it every day even. You could do it for every day for 30 days. I highly encourage it. It's a beautiful way to create completion in your inner child and also continuously connect to the future version, that the highest self manifesting what it is that you're calling in, and just keep moving yourself forward in the timelines more rapidly and with greater ease and grace. I love you all. Happy full moon. Hope you have the most beautiful day, and really know that you set the right energy tone for today, amplified by the moon, and may all your manifestations come easily with grace and flow for this final month of the year. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or anything you want to share before we wrap it up? You can post it in the comments. And I'm going to be posting the replay for this in the WhatsApp and also in our Facebook group. And so you can watch it anytime. Let's see. We get some comments over here. Beautiful people. I find myself wanting it more. Yeah, I got all these comments. Okay, so I love you all. If there's no comment, I got Alexandra, namaste. Namaste to you. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Oh, good. I'm so happy you guys liked it. Yeah, so I'll post this replay so you can watch it in the future if you want to as well. Many blessings, love from my heart to yours, and I'll see you next week, same time, 9 a.m. Pacific time. And if you have any friends that would like to join us, please do recommend them, and you can earn 10% commission for their tuition. And also be sure and visit brightfuture.org. That's where we have our really awesome new products that we're launching for the holidays. And this is the gift box, which I think I shared with you all before, but we're just getting everything going for this, and it's so exciting. BFF gift box. It's the best holiday option for you and your friends. Check it out at brightfuture.org, and you can also get a discount. So there's this thing called Spin to Win, and you'll be able to get different types of discounts. You can do buy two, get one free, or like 10% off, or different types of discounts. So get some for your friends